Hello and welcome to the Meaning Project podcast. I am your host, Dr. Daniel A. Franz. As always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day. If you're watching on the YouTube, you can see, unfortunately, sadly today, I am not joined by my good friend and co-founder of the Viktor Frankl Meaning Academy, Dr. Baruch Halevi. Halevi. Um, the good Rabbi B had to attend to his family. He is out traveling to be with his children at their competitive dance competitions. So out there being a good dad, doing the family man thing. Good job, B. He kind of left me here to run my own podcast, and so it's been a while that I have done this without B. So I figured, I've been meaning to do this for a while. I thought today would be a good day to go back through my calendar to look through my clinical work and come up with some themes. And so for those of you that have listened to the entire 140 some episodes, you've probably heard some of these. I kind of noticed this as I was going through looking just at the past week. Um, I have been in the mental health field for 28 years now. As soon as I was able to, as soon as I was of legal age to join the team, in the state that I live in, I did. I had a job in a residential adolescent treatment center. An interesting place. It was an old, funeral home. It was an old funeral home, and the young men that were, um, I guess, charged to be there resided on the top floor, and the young ladies on the bottom floor. And there were staff, one of us, I think, one staff per group of boys and girls that would monitor them as they prepared their dinner and do their homework and then get to bed at night. And then um, I was actually, boy, this was a bad idea. I didn't last long. I was actually paid to sleep at night in this area. So there was a staff couch or bed that we would sleep on. And nothing's worse than waking up to a disturbed adolescent in your face yelling and screaming. And then the next morning I would get up and take them to school. So I went from there into a larger adolescent treatment center. A lot of adolescents needing help in Muncie, Indiana, and the surrounding areas. We treated kids from all around and worked there for a while before starting grad school to become a therapist, then eventually going on to do the doctorate work in logotherapy. So 28 years, over 20 years as a licensed psychotherapist, and what's my license? Licensed mental health counselor and a licensed clinical addictions counselor. And I've started to realize in my advanced experience, or you might call it old age, um, I mean, of course there are themes. I'm a human being. Things I repeat and I see things, and um, some of the things I say, um, traverse different situations and different individuals that I work with. So today's themes might seem rather familiar. So I want to get to them. One of the things I noticed, and this was in across several sessions this week, and I've said this before, you've probably heard it. Parenting. Parenting is one of the most difficult jobs you'll ever take on. And I mean, we know it. It's a job. It's work. You think you know what you're getting into at the initial interview, and then as soon as you take on the job at day one, everything changes and the job description goes out the window. And then it's a job we don't get to choose whether or not we leave or not. We shouldn't be looking for another job, but we can advance in the job of parenting, right? So it is certainly one of the most difficult jobs you'll ever have, but I would argue certainly one of the most rewarding. Um, Again, in my advanced experience, now having a daughter of 21 and 19, it's really cool to look back at how our relationships have changed and evolved, and what that looks like and how they've changed and grown, um, from those, little babies that I used to rock in the living room to, young women who kind of rock themselves, right? Like they're pretty awesome. So difficult and rewarding. One of the things that hit me this week and specifically, and this will be what the third week in the row that I address men and masculinity specifically, but here we go. Guys, get involved from the beginning, not waiting for, I can't wait for their when they're teenagers, or I can't wait till they walk or talk or anything. Dude, get involved right from the start. During pregnancy, you can be involved, right? Like your partner, your wife has 9 months on you that she is getting to know this child intimately in her womb, and you're on the outside. You got to catch up, man. You got to catch up with that relationship right from the start and not wait until feeding time is over or until they're walking and talking or I can't wait until they're 5. No, man, you got to be involved right away. Start having that relationship. And that starts, in my belief, and we can debate this, men or women. Um, one of the most, I don't know, I'd say harmful situations I've encountered, both personally and professionally, is when men choose to indulge in a full night of sleep during those early years, during those early weeks, right? Um, like, I get it, you know, one of you might be at home and one of you might be working, but you're both involved in raising this child. At the very least you can do is get up and ask if you can do anything or get a glass of water or something like that. But be involved from the start. Get in there and change diapers and do feedings. And if you're nursing, right? Well, guys, we can't do that, but we can certainly get up and be a support for our partner. Get involved, right? As you're raising this child or these children together, it's really helpful to admit, acknowledge, appreciate, and respect male and female differences, mom and dad differences, right? What I've witnessed, and there might be some science here, and I'm sure there's some politics that are going to argue with me, but moms and dads are different. They need to be different, right? It's healthy for kids to get both of these perspectives. Moms, historically, naturally, I believe, are just so much more nurturing than us, right? That's their role. They're good at it. Dads tend to be more about structure and discipline. I'm not saying moms aren't good with structure and discipline, but that's usually our default. What a beautiful balance that can be when we acknowledge and accept and respect it, right? When we come into this role, when we come into the role of partnership, of marriage, of co-parenting, of raising a family, all that we know, most of what we know, is what we learn from our families of origins, both good and bad. But sometimes that's not enough. You know, it is so helpful to get to collect, acquire good resources. I bought good, oh, how's it go? Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, uh, the week my first daughter was born. And you've heard me say this before. I go back to that regularly. If you're new to this parenting thing, find a book that works for you. Find a book that you and your partner can agree on and build from there, right? Like you both come from different backgrounds, different families of origin, and you're going to have different perspectives. That's okay. But you have to come together to find out what your perspective is on parenting. And that can cause a lot of arguments if you don't. If you can discuss it and disagree and agree to disagree and move forward and support each other, everything's going to work out, even in the difficult times. But if you're disagreeing on the small things in the beginning and you can't communicate about it, you got to find some good resources, whether that's a book, a podcast, step it up and find a therapist. One of the things I recommend, you know, I was one of the early parents in my peer group. My wife and I had children early, and other guys were still looking for girlfriends or wives, and hadn't had children. Were still going out to the bars. Um, but as they did, it was nice to have people I could talk to, men I could talk to, couples that my wife and I could talk to, and be like, hey, is is this normal? Like, Should we be expecting this? Are we doing something wrong? What can we do differently? Find good peers, good friends, same, men finding good male friends, women finding good female friends, but also couples that you can bounce ideas off of. Parenting's tough. And the more support and resource you put around you, the easier it is. I take that back. It's never easy. The more fun it can be through the hard times and certainly through the joyful times. So enjoy it, right? Because again, now looking at a 21 and a 19-year-old, man, I miss those early years sometimes. I certainly don't miss changing diapers. But I think I said this this week and it still gets me every time I remember it. There will be a time that you have that baby in your arms in that rocking chair, and it will be the last time. And you never know when that is. So enjoy every time, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And enjoy, that's true for every moment. You never know. Well, sometimes you do. A good friend of mine, we were lamenting, those final moments coaching our children before they go on to, somebody else will have them as a coach. For both my daughters, watching the final soccer match, the final tennis match, right? Knowing like, wow, now things are going to be different. It's tough. Parenting is a difficult job, but enjoy every minute because life is fast. Life is transitory, as we say in logotherapy, right? And we're not here forever. So enjoy the time you do have. All right. Total different topic, but a theme I used several times this week. Excuse me. I noticed without B here, um, I don't get those pauses where he's talking to grab a sip of coffee. You just have to bear with me, and I'm sorry. So here's the new topic. It doesn't have anything, well, it might have to do with coffee. Hey, here's a good one. Don't drink and drive. Whether you've never had a DUI or an OWI, or you've had one or two, there is no reason in the world we live in with Uber and Lyft and home delivery to be out in public, drink too much, and get behind the wheel. It it impacts just one mistake, right? Just a little bit. In the state of Indiana, 0.08 is the limit. If you're 0.09, it's a DUI, and it's the same as if you were full-blown intoxicated. The consequences are life-changing, right? I tell, so as I've talked about, I run a men's substance abuse group. And one of the things I talk about is like, look, if you're going to go out, and have a burger, have some wings, and have a beer, like have a beer. But that's it. Know your limit. Don't go beyond it. Because you have two or three or five or six, and you get behind the wheel and you just have a tail light out. Or maybe this is a great one. I've heard this before. It's so sad. The left light of your license plate lights was out. That's a reason to be pulled over. And if they smell it on you and they test it, and you could think you were fine, but you're going to spend a night in jail, and the consequences are certainly life-changing. There's just no reason. If you're going to go out and first of all, don't drink when you're out. And, if you want to drink, have a few at home. That's okay. Again, have a few at home. But if you are going to go out, right? I've often talked about alcohol, a good glass of wine, a good craft beer can accentuate a meal. Okay, have one or two. Know your limits. My goodness, you can carry a breathalyzer around with you if you need to. There's just no reason to. And to take that a step further, as I was reflecting on men's group this week, the substance abuse group this week, if you start to notice you are drinking, or if your state has legal marijuana, smoking, more than occasionally, if it's becoming regular, daily, several times a day, you got to ask yourself why. Because this goes beyond just don't drink and drive. This starts to become addiction. This becomes I'm escaping on a daily basis, and my life is probably becoming quite meaningless. Challenge yourself to find meaning in creativity, experience, and your attitudes. But if you're recognizing this, or if you're going even further from what's legal to what's illegal on a regular basis, whether it's, popping prescription pills that aren't yours, or overdoing the prescription pills that are yours, or going further to heroin or cocaine or things like that, it's obviously a problem. And there are people there to help. I'm here to help. And now, man, I love it. And I'll talk about it in another section here today. This men's substance abuse group that I'm running, I've been doing it for years live in my local area, but taking it online has been such a cool experience. Um, so if you're out there and you have a problem with substances, or somebody, you care about somebody that does, seriously, like, I have capacity, send them my way. It used to be I would say, well, I only have a certain amount of hours every week, but now doing it online and virtually, that's just so cool and so different. And so if you're struggling, give me a call, look me up. So, all right. It's kind of funny to think about the diversity of my week. So, parenting, alcohol and substance abuse. Let's talk about relationship and marriages. Here's another really good rule. Do not lie to your spouse or partner about anything, about where you are, about what you're doing, especially about money and what you need, what your expectations are. When we start to tell little white lies, when we start hiding the truths about where we're at, what we're doing, where we're going, who we're with, that starts to become a problem, and it's only going to grow. As they say, honesty is the best policy, but honesty builds trust, and trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship. That idea of never lie about money. I've said it before, I'll probably be saying it for the rest of my career. Finances are one of the biggest top 3 stressors in any relationship. And that goes back to that idea that all we know from our families of origin, right? And what we know about money coming into a relationship is often not even overtly discussed or addressed. It's great to have resources there, but if you have to hide what you're doing financially, if your spending is out of control, or if you're trying to put money away for a reason, these things cause problems in relationships. Financial infidelity is a very real problem, and it is a betrayal. Be honest, talk openly about your finances, and you'll have a much happier and healthier relationship. And that goes the same for your expectations for what you need in the relationship. Too many couples end up on the therapist couch because they stuff down what they need, what they hope for, what they expect in a relationship, until it explodes, until it's too much, or even worse, until they find themselves going outside the relationship to have those needs met. Be honest. Be honest in everything, but especially be honest about money and about expectations. And this can help too. This can help pretty much any relationship, whether it's in an unhealthy state or even in a healthy state. When it comes to your partner, when it comes to your spouse, if you always assume the highest possible positive regard, you're going to feel much better about them. Too often, if we're in a bad space, or we assume and assess they're in a bad space, we can assess their intentions to be negative, to be nefarious, to be mean-spirited or cruel. And maybe they are. And if they are, that's a serious problem. But sometimes it's about us and assuming negative instead of positive. And when we do this, we vilify them, we assume, we assign negative attention, and that can be dangerous. Always, you're 2 human beings who are fallible and correctable. You're both going to make mistakes. Neither one of you is perfect, but keep trying, right? So recognize you'll make mistakes and you expect your partner's grace. Recognize they make mistakes and they deserve your grace as well. Always assume the highest possible positive regard. If you need help with that, again, that's something we can work on. So kind of another, well, that was parenting. That was about relationships, substance abuse and alcoholism. Finally, just a basic health situation. right? First of all, I believe we should all have a good therapist or mentor, coach, clergy, Rabbi B, somebody that we can go to when things are difficult. It's great to have our friends. As you know, I have my running man and other friends as well that I go to when times are tough. But it's also good to have a professional, right? Friendships are great for holding you accountable when it's time to say, hey, you're heading down a wrong path. But having a professional or a clergy member or somebody who is trained can say, here's a way to get off that path and do better, right? Friends can hold us accountable, but professionals help us to find new paths. And when it comes to professionals, for goodness sake, it's sad when I run into this, but hey, check in with your primary care physician, with your doctor regularly, at least once a year, and make sure, right? And this is sad when I run into this. A lot of health problems that come into the mental health realm, into the mental office, could have and should have been prevented. They can prevent it first with regular visits to your doctor. But the other part of that is it's just not any doctor. You have to have a doctor you can spend time with and that's going to know you. I'm a big believer when it comes to therapy, it's a psychotherapy, that it's about the relationship, right? Unfortunately, we are trained that it's about the diagnosis. If somebody comes in and says they're depressed, the medical model says you have 8 to 12 sessions to treat them. Here's the treatment plan. Treat them, get them out. You terminate the relationship is what we're taught. I think that's garbage. I have clients I am very proud to say that have been with me. Wow, I think last estimate was like 15 years. Not consistently, like my goodness. My wife can barely tolerate me on a daily basis for 20 years. Like I don't expect anybody to tolerate me professionally weekly for 15 years. But no, I kid. Um, not weekly for 15 years, but on and off. I treat this as a therapeutic relationship that when things are better, yeah, you don't need to see me, you're doing good. But when life hits you hard, when relationships change or struggle, when parenting struggles, I'm always happy to have people come back, right? It's about the relationship. And I believe, as crazy as this sounds, you should have that same relationship with your physician. People once did, right? The family doctor was truly the family doctor who would make house calls, right? Well, now, because of the money and how that works, doctors are only given a few seconds to know their patients. And now doctors are more supervisors of nurse practitioners who work with the patients, but they seem to change over and over again. If you're not, if you don't have a relationship, a healthy, nearly therapeutic relationship with your doctor, you might want to consider making the change. And the change I encourage is towards these family membership concierge physicians or nurse practitioners. Um, when we had to change doctors, when our work situations changed, I said, I really don't want to look for one of these system physicians, right, that are burned out and tired and are just peddling medications. I want to work with somebody that I can have a relationship with. And I was blessed. We were blessed to find somebody. We pay a small fee every month and we go talk to Dr. Lindsay whenever we need to, right? I can text her, I can call her up. My girls are off to college and then, hey, Dad, I got a promise. Hey, get a hold of Dr. Lindsay. She'll be able to see you tomorrow. And she has a relationship with each one of them. Because she loves what she gets to do, but she also truly loves her patients. And it shows. And we've been able to catch, not just medicate, but catch and look for different solutions to health problems. So make sure you have a relationship with your healthcare provider and check in regularly. And finally, I'm so excited. This was the coolest part of my week, right? 2 weeks ago, I took my men's meaning-based substance abuse group online. And we have a group of, I don't know, depending on who shows up, there's about a dozen men that are needing help right now, and that number is growing. And most of them have shown up these past 2 weeks, and it's just amazing. Like already, um, it's not just local gentlemen receiving help, but I've got people from 100 miles away and 20 miles, people that would find it really difficult to drive to my location on a Wednesday night at 5:30 p.m. and sit for an hour and a half and then drive back to wherever they came from. So it's different than being fully present with somebody, being in the same room. Man, it was so cool. And so that reminds me of the need, our need for community, right? Human beings are wired for connection. Our neurology is set up for connection. When we see or are close to somebody we love and care about, it lights up our brain in positive ways. Healthy neurotransmitter, oxytocin is released, dopamine, all of these things. And so it's so important to be in a community, to have community, to have people you can connect with and exchange important ideas with. And of course, you know it's coming. That's what brings me to the Viktor Frankl Meaning Academy's Your Search for Meaning. So this past Wednesday at noon Eastern, I got to lead the first group meeting of our meaning seekers, and it was awesome. It was so cool. The B and I and Dr. Elisa put together a 24 session curriculum that we cover in our 2 meetings a month. So we have a morning meeting, it's noon Eastern my time, and an evening meeting, 8 p.m. Eastern. Uh, the noon is the first Wednesday of the month. The evening is the third Wednesday of the month. We record them if you can't make it. But so we cover a topic. This week was, let's see, am I a victim or a victor? And then, of course, we relate it back to logotherapy. And, I kind of joke around about this with my other therapist. I spend all week, hour by hour, listening to people and reflecting and trying to be a good listener. So when you give me an opportunity like the podcast or a lecture in group to run my mouth, man, I've got some fun stuff to talk about. I think it's fun stuff. Hopefully, I'm not being too conceited or narcissistic about that. But so we start out with just a little bit of a introduction and lecture and talking about am I a victim or victor? And that was cool. People seem to enjoy it. I know I enjoyed it, but the best part was just the sense of community, people sharing and being vulnerable. Now, some of the people that attended were actually there for our pilot run back in the summer and fall of last year. But then we also had some new people too. And one of the stories just was so beautiful. So, hey, we keep talking. Please come join us. Right now, you can, I think it's free to give it a whirl and a sample. You get 2 weeks free to have a look around at the learning library and the community and everything. Love the community. So we have this, we're using a platform called Thinkified. That's B's idea. So Thinkified has its own social platform. You get an app just like your other socials, but it's just us. It's not all the other crap on Facebook or Twitter and that. It's just a bunch of people interested in finding meaning um, in its own dedicated app, and that's been a lot of fun too. So um, the overarching principle here is the importance of community and connection, but also to point out if you're struggling to find that, we offer at the Viktor Frankl Meaning Academy. We are offering a ready-made community for you to jump into. That was one of the most important things we wanted to do in this. It wasn't about just preaching and sharing the good information of logotherapy and the psychology of meaning, but it was about building a community of people interested in these ideas and growing and evolving and becoming, as Dr. Frankel says. And hey, it's working. Starting out small. I think we had, I don't know, excuse me, maybe 10 people. But it's just, again, when you're with somebody you truly care about and are connected with, your body, releases amazing hormone. You just feel good. You know this. But we're finding more and more, right? Even if we're not in the same room with that person, we can still have some of those positive effects. Zoom meetings are not a replacement for personal interaction, but man, I guess maybe when you build it around something so mutually, people that really want to know and learn and grow, it was just really positive and powerful. And then, I had my men's substance abuse group, meaning-based substance abuse group, yesterday, and again, just so cool. So, I hope you have your own community. Make sure you have your group of friends that you can be around and be with. But sometimes it's also helpful to have a consistent group of people, maybe even in a therapeutic sense, that you participate with and work with. So that was just a few of the patterns in my clinical week, right? Parenting, don't drink and drive. Don't abuse substances that are illegal and possibly fatal or addictive. Don't lie to your spouse or partner. Check in with your doctor regularly and be a part of a community. Put yourself out there. And if you're struggling to do that with wherever you are, find us at the Viktor Frankl Meaning Academy. We have a community for you. To find out more about me and what I'm up to, you can look me up at danielafranz.com, DanielAFranz.com. Please forgive me, man. That website is getting more, every day that passes, that website is a little bit more out of date. So definitely looking to update it sometime soon, but I'm just having too much fun building community of meaning seekers and meaning-based substance abusing men. To really focus on that right now. So DanielAFranz.com to find out more about what we're up to at the Meaning Academy and to join your search for meaning. That is themeaningacademy.com. Okay, so if you've been listening to podcasts for a while, I've got two different endings, right? Do I tell you to live your life with meaning, purpose, and resilience? Or do I simply sign off by saying, as always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day. Take care.